Hey C3 family, happy Wednesday to you. To get started with the weekly update for this week, I want to say something that maybe you haven't heard us say enough, and if you haven't, I want you to hear it. And that is, we miss you. We absolutely miss seeing you, and we want to be back together. In fact, as a staff, we talk consistently about how excited we are for the opportunity to have the building full again and us worshiping together and singing our heads off in celebration to our good God. So just know, we really miss you. But also know, we're doing our dead level best in this season to operate from the perspective, the biblical perspective, that love always protects. It always does. 1 Corinthians 13 tells us that that's one of the functions of love, is we always protect. And our desire and our job, we feel like, is to do everything that we can to make sure that when we gather together, we're protecting our people. And as we listened to the governor's staged, phased reopening that he's been talking about, and we've had a lot of information in the news about it the last few days, we started to meet as a leadership team. Your elders got together, and elders and staff have put our heads together. And here are some things that we need you to know. Based upon the current phase that we're in, the opportunity that we would have to gather together is so restrictive in terms of the things that would have to be put in place to be able to gather together safely. We have made the determination that throughout the course of the month of May, we're going to continue to meet online only on our Sunday morning worship services. Things like this, things like answering the question of, can we abide by a 6-foot social distancing rule with integrity? We don't know that we can in our sanctuary or even in the hallways as we're walking back and forth. We don't know that we're the ones who are qualified to determine who gets in and who doesn't. So how do we say, oh, well, you've reached the point that we can't get any more people in. Oh, you've been here longer, so you've got to leave so these new folks can. And we don't know how with integrity we're able to stand at doors and say, you're part of the vulnerable population, so you can't get in. So all of those things go into, how are we going to do this well? On top of that, how are we going to clean thoroughly enough? How are we going to get this building turned around and cleaned thoroughly enough to make sure that we're taking good care of our folks? Also, since the recommendations are that children's groups not gather together and things like that back in the children's ministry area, those kiddos would be with us in the worship event. And as much as we love having kiddos around, that makes things a little bit different than normal. So a return to normal, quite frankly, right now, it's just not possible. And so what we've decided to do, in the interest of love always protecting, and in the interest of when we do finally get the opportunity to celebrate like crazy and worship together, being able to do that like we're used to and like we want to, we're just going to say the building is going to be closed through the month of May, and then we'll continue to keep you in the loop. We'll continue to update you as things change. Governor Holcomb said this is a fluid situation. He could change things based upon what we're seeing in the news, what's been going on with COVID-19. Is it speeding up? Is it slowing down? Is the curve being flattened? So we're open to changing as we need to change. But for right now, through the month of May, we're saying we're going to continue to worship online only. But I do want to remind you of something. Just because the building has been closed, the church has not been closed. In the midst of this time, quite honestly, God's been doing incredible things. We talked last week about what Satan may have intended for evil, God meant for good. And we can look at this situation and we can look at it through the same lens. Giving has been solid through the midst of this season. You guys have been faithful to continue to give and give generously to see the work of the kingdom continue to advance. People now are more open to conversations about Jesus than ever. I can personally speak to lots of conversations I've had in this season that I wouldn't have been able to have if not for us having to close the doors for a little while. Neighbors are loving each other more. I know of communities that gather together in social distancing circles almost every evening just to talk to each other, and those are maybe neighbors that never would have spoken to each other besides hi and bye as they're driving past each other. Our online presence continues to grow week after week. We're learning stuff week after week, and hopefully we're providing a better worship experience for you as the weeks go by. But our online presence, our viewership continues to grow. That's more people that are being exposed to the life-changing message of Jesus than maybe ever before, or at least than we've seen in a long time. And that's reason for us to celebrate. Also a reason to celebrate is that families are growing together. I hear stories about families that are having more spiritually focused conversations. Moms and dads are having the chance to be the spiritual heads of their homes the way that they know they've always been intended to be, and they've always wanted to, but maybe haven't had as much of an opportunity. So please don't believe that us not gathering in this building means that the church is not continuing to advance. It is. The kingdom of God is forcefully advancing through this time. A couple other things I want to make you aware of or give you to think about. Some have mentioned an interest in getting together with small groups. Well, small group gatherings can happen now. And what we're asking is you abide by the governor's guidelines. If you want to get together in homes or whatever to watch the service together, or if you want to have a cookout with a life group or something like that, that's perfectly acceptable. Just try your best to honor what the government has asked us to do in terms of the guidelines that they've given us. We're just going to say we're not going to have any church-sanctioned events like that. So you won't see us say, hey, the church is doing this. If you want it in your own life group or your own family or whatever the case may be, go right ahead. We encourage you to do that. And that's the church being the church anyway. So you're free to make that happen. And finally, here's what I'll say. Pray. Pray like crazy that God continues to be God in the midst of this situation. Continue to be the church. Be the church like crazy. And in the midst of this situation, see how God can move in your circle of influence. And know this, we'll keep you updated along every step of the process because we desperately want to get together with you again. We want to hug you. We want to high five you. We want to celebrate. We want to show together and talk about what God's been doing in our midst. So please know you're loved, you're missed, but you're also so cared for that we want to do everything we can to protect you in the midst of this season. Thanks for listening. We'll keep you posted, and I cannot wait to see your faces soon. Take care.